but she said to take off when I worked for the landscaping company.
All right, so I'm gonna switch it back.
You can leave Jamirna as a host too, right? Like, just in case you want to monitor the Zoom, Jamirna.
We can't hear you, Jumirna.
Hey,
So there you go.
okay, how's it going, everyone?
Good.
You're good.
I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Not sure if other committee members are joining us in person, but Eleazar is in another, excuse me, in another meeting at the moment. So I'm gonna kick things off if that's okay with you, Jamirna.
Yes, please go ahead. I'm actually trying to promote some folks to panelists. I see we have Superintendent Miller. So I'm just gonna work on that while you get us started. So thank you so much.
Sounds great. Could you also just take a note of who is on Zoom? Because I'll be taking the minutes, but it'll be a lot. I see we have a lot of folks participating today, so.
Yes, perfect. I'll do that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So thanks everyone for joining us here online and in person tonight. My name is Jacob Banis. I am a member of the Public Safety Committee and a member of Community Board 12. So I see we have a lot of folks joining us tonight. I'm very excited to see you all here and to hear from you all. Normally we go through a process in these meetings that's very bureaucratic. We'll hear from our public safety officials, and we'll have time for folks if anyone would like to speak. We'll give you that opportunity as well. So do we have the 33rd precinct on?
Yes, it's Lieutenant Vincent Caprino. My credentials aren't working, so you won't see my name, but it might come up as a guest.
Okay.
So I'm sorry about that. Yeah, my credentials aren't working. I don't know what's going on, but I am here from the 3-3.
Okay, great. Would you like to go ahead and give us your report?
Sure. So the precinct overall for crime-wise, we've actually been last year we were down almost 10% total in crime. Which is actually great because that's almost like 100 less crimes. That's 100 less people being victimized. And, this year so far, it's early. It's February. For the year so far, we're down a total of we're at 21%, maybe a little bit more than 21% in overall crime reduction. For the department, we look at things through a 28-day period. And through the 28-day period, we're actually down almost 25%. It's about like 24.5, 24.6. I think it actually might be 24.7%. But we're doing very well. The one thing I want to get out there to everybody is the one crime that we've seen actually an uptick of is grand larceny. And there's ways that people are committing these grand larcenies. One of the biggest things that we've seen, I'll give you a couple of them. One is we are seeing rims and tires being taken in our precinct. There is an investigation going on. I don't want to give too much away, but it is being investigated, and we are very, very close. So if you have some of these the vehicles that are being targeted, Hondas unfortunately are always a hot car. They're usually the ones that get stolen, but the rims on the Hondas, they're very they're sought after. Acura as well. Acura is just the luxury line of Honda, but Acura, we've seen Acuras as well. And the BMW. So, those are things to consider. If you could park in a garage, great. There's also these things called rims and tire, like wheel locks. To maybe invest in those, but like I said, we are handling the situation. We're very close to actually making arrests. And the other grand larcenies that we see is some of these people who are mailing checks and whatnot. They're like, oh, I dropped this in a mailbox, and the check never got there, and the check got washed, and now they took like $2,000 or $3,000. I would recommend, if we're gonna send money, please use the post office. But that's like the most major crime that we have is grand larceny. That's our that's what we're up in terms of the major crime. Violent crime, we're actually down. We're down in robberies, we're down in felony assaults, and we're down in burglaries. So that's like the most major crime. That's what I can give to you guys. Hopefully, if I get more information about possibly getting a VIN etching on these rims and tires to make them identifiable, so God forbid they do get stolen, we could track it. But on top of that, it also will deter some of these people if they see identifiable markings from doing that.
Any questions for the 33rd?
I'm sorry, who are you talking to?
The 33rd
sorry about that.
folks on Zoom. No, it's okay. But if anyone has any questions for them, was there something, Jamina?
Yes, so I see someone put a question. Adina, is the 21% compared to this period last year or to 2024 as a whole? How is that calculated?
So the year to date or the 28th day? So all of it is compared to the period, the dates in question for last year. So the year to date obviously compares from it ends on Sunday, so we don't have the updated report until the end of to Sunday, because this is from the report ending on February 2nd. So what we have is from January 1st to February 2nd for 2025 compared to January 1st and February 2nd of 2024. And then the period, the 28 days compared to 2025 compared to 2024.
Thank you. I actually wanted to follow up on something from last month to our 33rd precinct, and it was regarding the situation with that happened in November last year, 2024, with a man who fell from his window, leading to his death. According to the news reports, it was due to a burglary. So you guys told me to follow up again this month, so I just wanted to follow up in regards to that.
I don't want to speak for the detective squad because they're the ones that are actually handling that. I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe they actually made an arrest in that already, and there's others they have to still that are involved. Yeah, but I think the detective squad actually has pretty much wrapped up that case. But I don't want to speak for them because they don't have a representative here. But I'm pretty confident they actually have arrested somebody involved.
Thank you.
No problem.
If there's nothing else, then
Wait a minute, are we allowed to ask questions?
normally, I think you could, sorry, normally, yes. What was
The
it?
format wasn't explained of this meeting.
I apologize. Yeah, I could have done a better job
Don't
of,
mind.
explaining the format here, but certainly if you have a question,
No, I'd
Okay.
rather hear the format because it might not be appropriate.
okay. Well, normally with our agenda here, what we're gonna do is go through, and we'll hear from each of these precincts. So this is a report from the 33rd precinct. If you have a question for the lieutenant from the 33rd precinct, now would be a good time to do that. Otherwise, if there are no questions for the 33rd precinct, I jumped around a little bit. We do have Jocelyn Minaya from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office here, so we'll go to her, get an update from her, and then on to the 34th precinct and FDNY if they are available to join us for this meeting. So that'll be the format, and there'll be an opportunity for questions after each center. And then toward the end here, when we get to what's called old business or new business, that'll be an opportunity for more, any other issues that have come up that we want to cover, if not otherwise mentioned on the agenda. Does that sound good?
I'm not sure, but am I allowed to ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, officer, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Yes, sir. When you mentioned that violent crime is down, does
Yes,
that mean that it's not being reported? Does it mean that it's not being prosecuted? Does it mean that you're not making arrests? Can you please explain?
violent crime is down in terms of what is reported to us. Violent crime is down in our precinct compared to the year prior. So we have 11 less crimes, major crimes, than we had at this time last year.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yes. Another question?
Just to ask about the wheel stats. I know a lot of it's happening up on that area of Cabrini where there's no buildings. Is there anything being done in terms of lighting or anything? Because that was also a big catalytic converter zone.
Yeah,
When
so
those-
we're definitely working on maybe getting better lighting. We're gonna see if we can I'm gonna try to have these guys look into maybe getting some funding maybe to get cameras, some better cameras. Maybe not through the like basically when I was in the Bronx, they had like a grant. There was a way to get it through our local elected officials to help us get funding for some cameras that aren't necessarily NYPD cameras. But like I said, we've actually my guys have made several arrests for people who were breaking into vehicles, stealing vehicles. I know that's not comfort for people who've been victimized and feel like, well, they haven't received their justice. But my personnel, they're out there. I've changed some of these guys' hours. They're working late into the early morning hours. Some of these guys are staying till 6, 7 in the morning on this overnight. I'm dedicating resources to it. But like I said, with the thefts, usually the guys that are doing these rims and tires, they're also going to do catalytic converters. If you're good at stealing car parts, you're good at stealing car parts. And these guys happen to be very, very good. But like I said, there's a very large case involving multiple precincts throughout the city, and we're hoping very soon there'll be a conclusion to that, which includes many arrests.
Thank you.
And to make a point about the lighting too, that's something that I personally have pursued as an issue. Is lighting doesn't necessarily stop crimes, but certainly if an area is well lit, people are less likely to be committing crimes. So
So area will
it's-
always invite it.
yeah,
No buildings are gonna be built there.
It's, definitely a focus of mine personally too. So, any other questions before we move along? You
I have some questions, but I wanted to generally talk about some issues that we're having, but I'm wondering whether we should wait for the 34th precinct. Is there a different officer
Yeah,
coming on?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
But before we get to the 34th, I do want to go to Jocelyn now for her update.
And good evening,
I
everyone.
went a little bit out of order. I apologize.
I'm sorry, I thought I was early. Good evening, I'm Jocelyn Minaya, and I'm with the New York County District Attorney's Office. We are actually neighbors of the community board, so our office is located right down the hall here, our Washington Heights satellite office. So I'm aware of why many people are here today, and I know we're anxious to get to that, and we will. So I'll just give a very brief report in terms of some things that I want to highlight this month. Last month we were highlighting human trafficking awareness, and we had a wonderful event where we partnered with the Deltas. I want to thank the community board for joining us for that and just raising awareness on what human trafficking is and what it looks like in our community. So this month we're actually concentrating on teen dating violence. which is what we do during February. So, you know, making sure we get the word out and partnering with our schools and community to raise awareness on teen dating violence and what that means and what that can look like. You know, just like domestic violence or any type of intimate partner violence, it could look like physical, psychological, sexual abuse, harassment, or stalking of any person between the ages of 12 and 18. So that's what we consider teen dating violence. And it can happen in the context of past or present relationships, whether they be romantic, you know, or sexual relationships. And it can look like physical abuse, hitting, biting, shoving, emotional or psychological, could be bullying, shaming, intentionally embarrassing. It could be sexual or it could be stalking, repeated following or harassing a teen partner in a way that causes them reasonable fear for their safety or well-being. You know, we know that there are consequences of teen dating violence, which can be depression, anxiety, aggression, alcoholism, or drug use, thoughts of suicide, and eating disorders. And in addition, teens who are in violent or abusive relationships are also most likely to be in abusive relationships or unhealthy relationships when they become adults. You know, and we've also learned that many domestic abusers report having been victims of this type of abuse when they were a child or a teenager. So not necessarily generalizing that everyone who was in an abusive relationship becomes an abuser or falls into an unhealthy relationship in later in life, but the propensity is higher when that does happen. So preventing it, I think the key there is communication with our youth, whether it be through schools, whether it be at home, you know, with peers, and just making sure that we have those resources available that we can give to parents or to schools or anyone. So if anyone wants a list of resources that I was able to research and pull up, both nationally and locally, please feel free to reach out and I'm happy to share those with all of you. And then along the same vein, when we're talking about youth, I know that you've heard Fernanda, who I think is on the call as well, speak about our high school internship program. So that is currently ongoing. The applications are now open. They'll close on March the 12th. I have some flyers here to share with the community board and with those present. Our high school internship will run from January 30th to August the 1st. Applicants must be current high school sophomore, junior.
January 30th? The start
I'm
already?
sorry, June 30th.
Okay.
I apologize. Thank you for catching that. June 30th through August the 1st. And it's for high school sophomore, juniors, or seniors who reside in Manhattan. They can go to school anywhere, they just need to reside in Manhattan. And to that end, we're also doing a resume workshop this month, Friday, February 21st. It's an in-person free resume workshop, and it's actually, they're out of school that week, so they're free to come into the office. And they will work one-on-one with some of our ABAs or other professionals to create or refine their resumes, because some of their resumes look way better than even my own. And we will be providing light refreshments. So I hope that you can help us spread the word on that as well. And what I'm really hopeful for, and what I'm always hopeful for, is that we get a good representation of Washington Heights and Inwood, of our wonderful youth that can come and join us during the summer and be part of the district attorney's office. So I have this information here and happy to share. And that is all that I have to report today. I know we want to get on with it, so thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Any questions for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office?
Thanks for coming. Who holds the Manhattan DA's office accountable financially? Is there transparency in terms of how much money is allocated towards day-to-day activities?
That's a good question. I'm not sure who holds us accountable, but I will look into that and get back to you with an answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Can I get rid of the flyers for
I'll have this out.
Then, if there's nothing else, do we have a representative from the 34th precinct moving on with our agenda here?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Officer Tavares here for those who haven't met me. I'm Officer Navarrette's new partner. Like I said, good evening, everyone. Like the lieutenant from the 3-3 mentioned, we do 28-day period and comparison of in comparison of 2024. So in the last 28-day period for 2025, we've actually, similar to the 3-3, we've actually dropped down by almost 7% in crimes. So we have less crimes than last year in the 28-day period that we've that in the last 28-day period. The only increase that we've had is actually in felony assaults, where through the statistics that we were looking into, we've mainly dealt with domestic incident. Not the increase has been due to domestic incidents, and the other increase is in grand larcenies of auto, just like we do share the same area, so it's very similar in that sense also, where we've gotten a lot of vehicles being stolen. And to be specific, just like Lieutenant mentioned, Honda CRVs are actually our biggest issue lately. Like, they're, I guess, easier to I don't want to say that it's a manufacturer problem, but it's been a common problem for us lately, where the CRVs are the bigger issues. On a brighter side, if you own one, or if you know somebody that does, we do actually here with in our office, we have a bunch of basically safety mechanisms where you could put on a steering wheel, where if you need one, we do have, so to help out. We posted it on our social media also we posted it on social media to give out on a specific date. But for those that know somebody that owns a CRV and needs it, we're here for that also. Here to provide one. That's the only increase. We've only increased in felony assaults and grand larcenies, like I mentioned, because of the spike on Honda CRVs. Other than that, everything else we're actually down. We're down on robberies, we're down on burglaries, we're down on grand larcenies, and that mentions all of them.
Great, thank you, officer. Any questions? I think you may have that one.
Well, all of us here were concerned about the increase in there seem to be more than one incident where people have been either assaulted. That's me. I was actually assaulted, but there've also been several instances of the same man following women and girls around and saying sexually explicit things or being inappropriate. I'm on a neighborhood Facebook page, and there are women reporting this day after day.
And it's groping
and groping and assault. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Captain Castro from the 33rd Precinct. How are you guys? I would like to speak on that. We do have an individual. We've had several incidents on 4 Washington Avenue where you have a male who's following women, right? He's following women. I believe there was about 7 incidents between mid-December and, let's say, February 1st. Out of those 7 to 8 incidents, 3 of them, actually a report was taken because it rose to a level of violation. 2 of them, 2 harassment 60 complaint reports, and 1 rose to the level of forcible touching. So just to give you kind of like a timeline, our first report for forcible touching was on January 20th, right? So that's a misdemeanor. That one was being investigated by our special victims team. And it happened on 173 Washington. There's no cameras in the location, and our victim does not want to proceed with this case. So when our victim does not want to proceed, we can't force that person. That person just went through a traumatic event, and we can't force them to proceed. What the detectives do tell that person is not only do they get referred for counseling, but they let them know, listen, at any point you could return to us and we'll investigate the case. What the other 2 cases was January 23rd, which was a Thursday. He followed he made a comment, and the last case was January 25th. Again, this time he followed, and he did not make a comment. What we did was we took a step further, because I know that we have great public safety officers at Columbia University. They pretty much knew who the person was, and they gave us that information. What I did was I looked at his history. What we noticed was at the beginning of the year, he did have an issue in another area in Lower Manhattan. So I conferred with, a colleague that works for special victims, and I explained to them, listen, this looks similar to what's going on in the 3-3. Can we take a look at this case? She said, I'll call you right back. This happened about an hour ago. And she did call me back. So she said, give me time. We're going to go to that victim and see if that victim is willing to cooperate. We'll show them photos, and we could, pretty much, get vindication for all these females. Again, it's scary. You're walking along the street, you're targeting women, and it doesn't rise to the level of a misdemeanor if, again, you're not, being sexually gratified. When he touched this person on January 20th, who doesn't want to proceed with our case, that's sexual gratification once you put your hands on someone. Again, we're working diligently with, Carmen De La Rosa. We're working diligently with, Jocelyn Minaya and the 3-4. Again, we all have to talk. We share borders. So I'm not sure if the 3-4 has any incidents for our particular individual. One thing I will tell you is that on Saturday, one of our, our day tour officers made an excellent arrest. We thought it was this particular person. The incident happened in the Armory. Similar person puts their hands on a female. I was very happy. I thought it was the same person, but unfortunately it wasn't. And that's why I had to dig deeper into the case. I'm not sure the 3-4 could speak on, do they have something similar?
But I haven't heard about the case that Newport was talking about. She was punched in the head and and they have a picture.
They actually have the video. This whole assault is on video.
Hi, this is Captain Prato in the 3-4. Is this the assault over on 186 Overlook?
Yes.
Okay, so in regards to that, what we did with the video, we definitely have the video, we have good images. We submitted, or the Detective Bureau submitted the images to our FIS, which is to try to see if we could actually identify this person through face recognition. I could tell you right now, as of last week, we got a possible hit back with a potential person of interest, but now that doesn't give us the legally, that doesn't provide us with enough to just go ahead and arrest this person. What it does is provides us an idea as to where we gotta go. Now, what the Detective Bureau will have to do from here on there is pretty much establish enough to say, okay, either with the victim herself, where they'll show her pictures if she actually even saw this person, or if she didn't see him, there's other mechanisms, other ways where we'll try to actually get somebody to say, yes, this is the person on that picture, and get an actual ID. And at that point, they will be able to issue or get an arrest warrant, or what we call an ICAR on our end. The arrest warrant will come actually from downtown. But yes, your case has not been forgotten. There is somebody of interest that the detectives are looking at, but like Fernanda or even Jocelyn could tell you, it takes a little bit of while for us to actually make a legally binding identification of a person, and that's where we're at now.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, my name is Tatiana Matano.
Can you hear her?
Can you hear me?
Or you want to come a little closer if you don't mind?
The mic is over here.
Yes, I could hear her.
Oh, great.
Oh, they can hear you.
Wait, that's probably perfect then.
Yeah, so my name is Tatiana Matano. I'm a director of Renaissance Village Montessori. It's a preschool, and it's located at 220 Cabrini Boulevard. And this person has not only been harassing my teachers individually when they go out for lunch, but he's acting in a very threatening manner to one of my classrooms that begins, there are 15 children. They begin their day at Bennett Park in the playground, and they're usually there around 8:15, and they stay there until about 9:30. And he's been acting in all kinds of inappropriate ways. Teachers feel very threatened. My parents, I think it was yesterday, 4 of them didn't want to even, they stayed the whole time during this activity, this outdoor activity. So I'm very concerned. I called yesterday the community contact and that I've been working with Mr. Polster, I think.
If we have this much
Brian
information,
Polster?
Yeah,
why can't we have somebody there? You know
I'm
exactly.
gonna just make a suggestion.
Yeah.
After all of yous have an opportunity to speak. Cause I think at the end, y'all gonna have to create like a task force between the 2 precincts, cause I see interchanges between one and another. So, anyone else wants to?
I have a question first. Did they call the police, the parents or the teachers? That
Uh,
would be. That multiple.
I actually, I don't think my teacher called the police, or I have to ask her. Actually, let me text her.
My wife filed a police report because he stalked her into court trying.
Yeah.
No, this is a different.
This is one of the parents.
Tatiana, this is a different man. This is a different man. That's a different.
You raise your hand? Yeah, go ahead.
So, from what I understand, hi, it's Park Cohen. From what I understand, we've got 2 different perpetrators who have been harassing women, harassing the neighborhood. Obviously, you were attacked. I have a couple of different questions for the 3-4 and the 3-3. First of all, I personally have called the cops on the one that we've been talking about up on Green. When he was pacing back and forth in front of the public school that's on Cabrini at 190th, whose name I never remember. There was no cop response. I know that because I didn't stay there, but I had an acquaintance who was there for the next hour and a half. We also had a neighborhood acquaintance who did the same exact thing I did an hour later and called the cops, and then spent that time sitting there on that individual just to see if there was any kind of response. So, 2-part question here. What are we to understand about? I understand that the NYPD has its list of priorities, and I get that, but fundamentally, the safety of the citizens of this neighborhood, to my mind, should be your top priority. And we're talking about citizens, many of whom are in this room, who don't feel safe. That's part A. So I want to understand the lack of response, the lack of the appearance by the NYPD. That's A. I hope they can still hear me, even though I'm not saying that.
Yeah, yeah, they can hear you.
Part B of this question is a more safety-focused question, and I think this would be more relevant to the women in the room who are being, the targets of this harassment. And I'm also a preschool teacher, and I think the idea that, our students and our children are being threatened is terrifying. So with that in mind, I understand that pepper spray is legal in New York City within specific doses. What exactly are the potential legal consequences should an individual feel threatened by a person who, though known to the police, has no actual arrest record or warrant out for his arrest, and that female or person feels the need to protect themselves by the use of equipment like, say, pepper spray? I want to know that that person should in fact fear legal repercussions if they feel a need to protect themselves, again, from an individual who is abundantly known both to the community and the NYPD. And that's a question that also goes to the district attorney's office. Thank you.
Starting with who? Because I can see from the 3-3 or the 3-4.
Captain Prods from the 3-4.
All right.
In reference, the 3-4.
There's several community pages on Facebook, and there are dozens of women posting this. This is a small group here, but there are dozens of women who say they call and there's no response. It takes 40 minutes for a response. Women who have not just been followed, but have been hit. Several women who have been punched in the face. I've never felt nervous in our neighborhood ever, and for the first time, I won't go out at night, or I'll make my husband come with me. For the first time I've lived here for 15 years. This is this is a small group here, but there are dozens of women online who are not getting a response.
There's 60 more.
60 more?
There's 60 more on, there's 60 more
Okay.
folks
Online.
online.
On the
Yeah,
internet,
remote.
on the website,
Yeah, on
I'm
the
sorry,
website.
on the live stream.
Someone
We let him
filed
answer
some
her
of these
question
cases
about
on
the-
Facebook and I forwarded it to this committee. Was that received?
Yes, they have that printed.
Right. We got-
You'll have it printed up.
we
So
got-
we're gonna have the 3, 4 answer the questions to, the question on to the, what's your name again for
Sephora Cohen.
Sephora Cohen?
So,
Before we have the precinct, I do want to acknowledge Jamila Sandoval from Carmen de la Rosa's office, who's I'm assuming she's been wanting to share something for things that was previously discussed. So
No, she's asking about the legality of using pepper spray when community residents are attacked, or feel like they're being
That's the
attacked.
second question.
That's the second question.
What is
The
it?
first one?
The potential.
So the potential for self.
Go in
Pepper
order.
spray for an example.
Right. Go ahead, officer, or the executive officer from the 3-3.
So, I could tell you this, from the NYPD side, if we have a complainant saying, look, I was being fouled, I was being threatened by this person, and, you know, I had to protect myself, I had to use pepper spray, to protect myself. At the end of the day, if we don't have a complainant back saying this person assaulted me using pepper spray, there's nothing we're gonna do on our end. Now, if there is an altercation between 2 individuals, just understand that the NYPD is not ultimately the agency that basically prosecutes. We make arrests, we bring them down to the district attorney's office, we present what we have and what the facts that we know it. The district attorney's office at that point, which I don't want to speak for them, but they determine as to whether a case merits prosecution or not. Again, if it is a clear-cut case of self-defense by anybody, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't see it. I don't see us going forward making an arrest on the person protecting themselves, and I certainly don't see the Manhattan DA's office prosecuting that person if they're effectively basically defending themselves. But I'll take it a step further. I understand the frustration that sometimes they're saying that they call 911 and it's taking a long time for us to respond. So
No one came. Multiple instances, no one came.
So just to take it into perspective, right? We do cover all the way from 179th Street to 220th Street, bridge, river to river. And sometimes we're running 4 cars, which means that on any single day, we could get anywhere from 300 to 400 calls of different type of emergencies. So I understand the frustration, but I could tell you that we respond to every single job, whether or not when we get there, sometimes unfortunately, depending, like I said, on the severity of the case, it could take a little while. So
how many cops do you have on staff right now out of the 250 that you require?
Right now, to cover the entire precinct, to cover the whole 24, we have 117 officers in this command. So it's hard. We try to do our best with what we have, and I understand. Trust me, I get it. But we definitely respond to every single job that we get. The problem is how long it takes. It really all depends on the severity of the call when we get them.
But what about the scenario that they're presenting?
Let her speak first.
Just wondering, if there could be a change in the distribution of officers in the area, because I do see a lot of them at Target. I do see a lot of them outside Great Wall Chinese food on Fort Wash and 181st. I don't ever see cruisers or individual patrolling officers anywhere on the west side above 181st.
The officers that you see on Target, they are part of a program that's called Pay Detailed. Pretty much
Not even taking up the PD. So where are the other ones on the west side?
pretty much Target pays that officer to work on their off-duty time through an NYPD function program. So when that officer is there in Target, they're not officially working for the NYPD or for the city of New York at that time. Even though they are wearing the NYPD uniform, they are being paid by Target.
So I feel like there's an unsafe ratio then of police in the area.
Yeah, of course
Right.
there is.
Like, yeah,
Can't
like
answer that
it's,
question though. That's above his pay grade though.
Yeah.
I
Which one of you
think
is answering your?
Wait, can I just answer, I'm sorry, your name is?
Cohen.
But I just, because she said I could respond from the DA's office as well.
Yes, that's correct.
So, just wanna piggyback on what the captain said. If, for example, you had to use pepper spray against myself because I was, trying to infer harm on you.
Just to clarify,
I'm
if
not-
you're following me and verbally harassing me, you haven't yet made.
Well, but
created
still,
any
you're feeling
contact,
fearful,
but I feel
so,
threatened.
so I, if I stay on the scene and wanna make the report against you, if I was doing something that made you feel unsafe, it's highly unlikely that a perpetrator is gonna stay on the scene, right? And report. So if there's no one saying that you sprayed me, and by no means am I advocating for anyone to go out and get pepper spray. Okay, but if there's no one making a complaint against you, there can't be a case within the district attorney's office. And in the case when two people have to be arrested, because the police can discern who the primary aggressor was, then the DA's office would do the investigation and, you will state your case, of course, and the DA's office would make the determination as to whether or not they would proceed with charges against you for using the pepper spray, which, depending on how you're expressing your fear and what you felt was imminent danger, it was highly unlikely that we would move forward with a prosecution against. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Whoever's first, you and then
So
you.
just really quickly.
And then we're gonna go to
understand, 'cause
whoever's.
I know this has been going on for a while and there's so many photographs of this guy, so many photos, so many videos, so many incidents. Does the NYPD know his name and address?
Because Facebook apparently does.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
And we
Yeah.
need
But does the NYPD know his
We are
name?
not
I'm sorry,
worried
hold on
about
one second.
students.
If you don't
Why
mind,
are
just
we
one at
doing
a
the
time,
work?
I just want an answer to the question, just one at a time, please. Does the NYPD know his name and address?
Which individual we're talking about, because we have based on the picture that I saw that it was sent in that group, there is at least 2 individuals there. And I could tell you that individual from West 186th Street Overlook, it is not one of those 2. So
No,
that,
I understand that the 186 and Overlook, I've seen that picture, I understand that's not the same guy as the one who's following people around and making nasty comments and grabbing people.
And trying to enter buildings.
But I'm just, for the guy who's following the teenagers and the grown-ups women around and making nasty comments to them and grabbing them, is the NYPD aware of his name and address?
Because again, we are.
I just not asking. You can say yes, you can say no, you can say I don't know, just asking.
If we
Sir?
can tell you if you need it.
I think he's on, he's on mute.
answer.
No, he's not on you.
that might not be my case. You might be talking about the 3-3 case here. So I'm just giving her.
We are aware. We have information on a particular individual. Like I said, on Saturday, we arrested one person and he pretty much groped 2 women and we thought he was our guy, but he's not because I looked at the name. So we are aware of it. Again, we are working on it and our special victims detectives are diligently trying to, work this case as soon as possible to alleviate, this terror that we're experiencing in the 3-3.
Well, ma'am, your name for the minutes for them.
Oh, I'm Nicole, and I was the person who was assaulted on 186 and Overlook. And I understand that guy is different, but now I'm asking about the one that is harassing people repeatedly. Is there one contact person that women can go to report this? Because you mentioned that you only actually got 5 or 6 instances reported and only 3 of them were above the threshold and the rest were not, et cetera, et cetera. So is there one point of contact so that there's somebody that is putting together all of this at your end? I mean, it really shouldn't be, we're doing it on Facebook, but it really shouldn't be us doing it on Facebook because that's not really you know, Facebook should not be what we're using. So is there one person in the 34th precinct that's actually compiling all of this and that we can tell all the women to turn around and go to?
So all of these,
Because what you said actually makes it sound like even the harassing and groping is being done by two different people. And then there's the third person who actually punches people. So we're not feeling really good these days.
Eliezer, if you don't mind, there's like something blocking the camera that blocks us from seeing the guest in the room.
no, they're just far out. There's nothing blocking it that I know of.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
maybe
fair
I
enough.
can just move this one.
No, no, just move this
Yeah,
Thank you.
all right.
and move the owl forward, I think.
So to your
Yes.
question, everything is tracked through our computer systems, and we have body-worn camera activations of our officers when they respond to incidents. So everything is tracked.
By the way,
But
the people in the chat, just 1 second, we're gonna go through all of your questions in just a second, as soon as we get all the input from the people here present. Sorry.
I guess the question is, where is it being tracked? Like if someone needs to call to report, where would they do that?
Well, look, I'll say if it happens somewhere in the confines of the 3-4, like 220 Cabrini Boulevard, right? Again, I understand that sometimes if you call 911, again, depends on what you tell the 911 operator and what they put out. It could take, a different time frame for us to respond. If you need to leave and it is safe for you to leave and you would like to walk into the 3-4 precinct, you are more than welcome to do so at any time, and your complaint will be reported there, right? Once that complaint has been assigned a detective, if one is assigned, then what happens is any other case that comes in, if it gets grouped into the same possible person, they will try to group it into one detective working that case so that they make sure they put pretty much, I'll say, all the cases in line to see presented to the Danny, and so hopefully get a prosecution on the case. But in terms of having one specific person that you could just come and make the report to, normally our patrol officers, the guys in the cars that respond from call to call, are the ones that take the initial complaint. Now, if it is a sexual manner where this person is either touching or, sexually harassing somebody, normally those cases, even though we will be the initial responding officers, those cases normally get handled by our special victims, which are not in the precinct. They're definitely downtown. They get contacted and then they'll take the case from there. But normally the initial you could also contact them directly if it is of any sexual nature, and they will be more than happy to assist you with that. But the initial officers that will take a complaint from somebody will be those officers on patrol. But again, you're more than welcome to walk into the 3-4 precinct or any precinct for that matter and file your complaint.
Yeah, and then we're gonna go to the chat and answer as many questions as we can.
Yeah, so as we've said, these conversations are going on Facebook, Nextdoor, WhatsApp groups. There's a lot of information and possibly some misinformation. I was told that, I'm gonna say his name, Anthony Albertorio, has a warrant and that we should call 911 and he could be picked up on site. Is that something you can confirm?
I can't give information out, but if he does have a warrant, if you believe he has a warrant, and if you see him, you call and we'll respond. And then if he does have a warrant, we'll make the arrest if he's still present.
Is 200 Haven part of the 3-3 or part of the 3-4? Well,
It's part of the 3-3. You can call us and we'll respond. Does he have a warrant right now? He doesn't. It's special victims looking into this and seeing what we can do based on our victim so that we can get a warrant. That's what we're working on.
Okay, you have a direct number in which some of the folks here can call you and maybe someone will sort of like address it.
Did you just hear what she just said? Sure. On this past Sunday, he was crossing where my daughter and I were crossing underneath the overpass at 179th and Fort Washington. And he came up to my daughter and tried to put his lit cigarette in her mouth. She's 2 years old. Okay, so it's not just adults. Now it's our children. I do a lot of work in the community. I'm a childbirth educator. I'm a doula. I love this area. And this just isn't okay. I'm not being paid to be a public servant, so I don't know why we're racking our brains online as a community trying to get this guy. What, can someone say what baseline this guy has to do for it to matter?
Yeah, for you to be able to arrest him.
Your take, one of these.
Go on.
3-4 or 3-3.
3-3 here. So, with this individual, like I said, I conferred, with, our special victims captain, and, I'm digging deep through these cases from the beginning of February. But again, our victim who says that she is able to identify him, she said that she doesn't want to proceed with the case, and we cannot force her to. We can't, and we don't have video. We have to work with the evidence. And if she's not willing to proceed, that's her right. Now, we don't have cameras on 173 and 4 Washington. Something that we should work on is getting. I'm sorry?
I called Port Authority to send the camera footage to the 34th precinct. We have dozens of women that can identify him, but you're telling us she's
Identify him, but was there a crime? Was there a misdemeanor crime? Or do you have that on camera? Do you have that on video?
Why does she need it on video?
Can I just chime in real quick?
Yes.
I'm sorry. This is Lieutenant Caprino from the 33rd. We had people reach out to the district attorney's office about the crime of like stalking. The way the district attorney's office explained to my cops was that they need it's got to be 3 incidents for the same person being like, let's say, okay, he followed me to the deli or he followed me to the park, and three incidents of that on 3 separate occasions, then that can be considered stalking, and then that is a crime. But if he
Dozens of that.
Same person.
Same
So-
person. Yes, it's following you 3 times for it. Oh, it has.
So Lieutenant, just for the sake of sort of like we don't miss exactly the point of what we're having this conversation amongst all of us, right? I just kind of like want to get to what does the law says? What does the law say? How does it go to who files charges? First of all,
well, you need
when people hang on a second. When people make these complaints, what is the next step? Who does it go to? Who's the next person in charge?
But if people calling 911 is not, that's reporting that's not, you're calling 911 to get us there, but you need to have a person reporting that, because in order for us to arrest that person, we need someone to say, yes, this is the person who did this to me on these occasions. This is what happened. Because if we don't have that and we just have a 911 call, that's not going to be enough for us, because we need someone saying, yeah, I saw him. He followed me from point A to point B. He's done this on this day. He did it this time. He did it this day at this time. And he did it this day at this time. Then we have that person then they can swear a complaint. But we can't swear a complaint out by just a 911 call. It gets investigated once we have an actual crime. If it's just, we don't have that level of crime yet, until we get those, yeah, he followed me at these times at these dates. Even if honestly, if it's the same day and you're like, well, I went out in the morning and he followed me, and then the other day when I went to, the same day I was out getting lunch and then he followed me again, yeah, it's 2 separate, it's those incidents, and that's how we could, but we need, and listen,
but Lieutenant, hang on. Well, we just had almost I think over 100 gang members that were arrested in Fort West. I mean, Audubon and 100 and something, and most of those apprehensions were done based upon investigations that you guys did on social media.
Right. Okay. So you're talking about a crime of, let's say, gun possession, or, these cases. It's different with a crime that's a personal crime. It would be like, it's like if you menaced me with a gun and there's no video of this, there's no, there's no witness to say, yeah, this person, I'm the victim. And if I go, yeah, I don't want to do anything, how is the district attorney going to prosecute? Like when it comes to a trial, and someone has to go on the stand and be like, yeah, that person did this. Where do you get that from? That's why we're saying, I understand it's uncomfortable. I feel for everybody in the community that has to deal with this guy who's it's disgusting. I'm not going to say his behavior is okay. It's not. But you know, it's brave that people. Yes, it takes something to say, listen, this is happening to me. I know it's uncomfortable, but we need the cooperation of the people that this is happening to, so somebody in this community doesn't get seriously hurt and violated. But we just need that cooperation.
People are violated. We have people seriously hurt.
Exactly, and you can't do anything until the threshold is at a certain level, but then you have to wait to, and then you're saying that we're worried people will get hurt. People will get hurt if we don't stop this. And we have people in this room that are willing to file a complaint and identify the guy.
Everyone just keep talking with me.
Let me kind of like, there's almost 70 people on attending this meeting that I also want to make them feel appreciated. So I'm gonna pose one question that I'm sure all of you guys are saying. I think this is directed to you, Jocelyn. Says a common response to outrage over people being arrested multiple times is you voted for this. Is there a policy at the level of the DA that makes sure that they get out? Who decides? Well, for example, a woman pushed into the oncoming train at 175th Street. The perpetrator had been arrested and released previously.
I don't understand the question. What is the question?
Is there a policy at the level of the DA that makes sure that they get out?
That make sure that who gets out.
The
So first
perpetrator.
of all, someone is arrested. If the crime is not bail eligible, we can't even ask for bail. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, the gentleman or the person who pushed this woman into a train
Right.
had been arrested for what? And previously released. Like, what was he arrested for? And he was released based on what? And just because he was released doesn't mean that the case was over and it's done with. Someone could be out on the street and have an open criminal court case. So, you know, I'm not sure how, you know, hopefully that answered his question, but there is no policy from the DA's office where people can get out. If we are able to ask for bail and a judge grants bail, then they're kept in until they can pay.
That's policy.
While the pendency of the case, right? And if we're able to get a conviction and there's time that can be served, then that's what we're gonna ask for, but it's not, you know, there's no, oh, this person got arrested and then they're out and the case is over because the DA's office let them out. That's not usually, you know, the way things go.
Following question. Hi, I'm a member. My question is, how do the 33rd and the 34th prisons, along with Transit Police, collaborate to ensure a safer and more supportive environment for students commuting within District 6? Lieutenant or someone from the 3-4. Is that possible to create a task force with the transit police that can come in and try and tackle a lot of the issues that community members are raising?
Well, I could tell you right now, this is Captain Peralta again for the 3-4. There is a lot of resources being put into transit right now, all over the city. I know specifically in Manhattan North, within the confines of the 3-3 and the 3-4 precinct, respectively, we were assigned 14 new officers that were taken away from us within a week of them arriving here and sent to transit to try and help out with the conditions that are going on in transit. I know they have their own, I would say, marching orders. In order to, they basically look at the crimes exactly as to what is happening within transit, and they are deploying personnel accordingly. We, from our side on patrol, we're also mandated to go down there, go into the transit subway stations and do what we call they directed, which is we'll walk the transit station and we see if there's any issues or if anyone approaches, we try to help them out if we're there, if they need any help while we're there. But in terms of, I'm not sure exactly what type of task force would be created. Again, like I said, transit is already deploying extra personnel throughout the days in the subway system, and so is patrol. Again, if I'm not sure of a task force at this point, that like the gentleman said earlier, that is above my pay grade.
Yeah, Robert.
So, two related questions. One is from just following up from what we heard before. If we kind of know from the community where this individual will be, is there any way that the police can be there, like to let you know tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, so they don't have to call you and wait 2 hours for you to come? Why can't we give you information now? And can we get someone there? Do we know? Do you have an idea where he'll be tomorrow morning? Do we have it? No.
Obviously.
But I'm just saying that I don't know if I'm asking the community to share that information. But if that is the case, I'm asking to be the conduit to try to move that forward.
If you need someone on the west side, just like patrolling.
No. What I'm saying is, if we know he was going to Bennett Park every day, do you know if you could predict if you had a genie, where will he be tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock?
Yeah, the children, well, now with the weather, you know,
Okay.
it has to be a little warmer. They haven't been.
So say Friday.
Yeah, let's say Friday, they will be at 8:15 in the park.
He'll probably be there too.
At Bennett Park.
Was he there? Was he there today?
He's not there every day.
Was he there today?
No, they didn't go out
He
today.
really likes to be by Booney, the cafe Booney
Yes.
on Pinehurst, because pretty
Yeah.
girls like to get their coffee at Booney.
Okay, so
And he stocks.
So number one is there a way to do that? Is there a way to predict and then have you call you the day in advance? And the second question is, does the precinct have the people in this room or online's information so that if you are able to apprehend him, they can say, I will be there in 10 minutes and I will identify him?
Literally spoon feeding him to you.
Right. That's yeah, I guess that's a good way of saying what's going on over here.
Well,
We're
first,
trying to
it
do our
should, it should start with this, right? If somebody has a crime that have already occurred to them, right, or has committed against them, please, if you have not reported it yet to the police, come to the 3-3, to the 3-4, or to the nearest precinct to your house, report the crime. Let's start there, right? We'll see what the crime
Frustration
is.
That we do, and then nothing.
Yeah, let me finish.
Yeah.
Right, so again, I understand that some people have said they call 911 and nobody comes.
No, we
according
come to the precinct.
But
and
are you
file-
gonna let me finish? If you're gonna let me finish, you could understand what I'm gonna come, all right?
Something that we're doing.
So this is what I'm saying. If we get there after you guys have left, obviously no complaint has been filed. We cannot go by just the 911 call. We
Correct.
need to have somebody physically there saying, okay, this is what happened to me, right? To me, I can't say this is what happened to somebody else. It has to be happening to me. And once you guys make the complaint, then we'll go from there. So we can't just go, okay, can we have somebody come over and do what we call directed patrols in the area where these children are playing? Absolutely, it can happen. Yes, can it be done every day? I cannot promise you that because we do not have the personnel to go
catch
there
them once.
every day.
But
You know, but we could.
It's not, I understand calling 911, that your frustration of we don't have reports, but we're saying that we're coming into the precinct and filing reports with you
There were two-
about this guy. So then what happens?
Okay, so again, if your reports amounts to a crime, the crime will be investigated, and once we have enough, hopefully an arrest will be made and the case will be presented to the DA's office. Now, just understand, right? There are different levels of there's a violation, misdemeanors, and felonies, right? If what you're reporting amounts to a violation, I'm gonna be straight up honest with you. There is nothing we can do.
Let me ask you something. Let me kind of like reroute this thing. Before I go to you, Jamila, and then Barbara, because you guys been waiting for a little while. If you guys already know that there's a specific radius of action that this perpetrator is committing all these crimes, let's pretend that it's a bank robber. This is a bank. And you guys know that this guy is robbing this bank on the same street, not even half a mile away from one another. Are you able to just have a police patrol be more visible in this area so that the individual perpetrator feels like he's being at least watched? Is that possible?
But that's what I said earlier. I can have somebody go by where the kids are between the hours of 9:15 till whatever time, right? What I said earlier is I cannot promise to do it every day because of the, obviously the requirements of the 911 calls or what other requirements we may have.
Understood.
Is there some, forgive me, I don't know the law enough, but is there some step you can take? I mean, obviously this man is mentally ill. Is there like a check-in? Like, is there, maybe this guy needs to be on medication? Is there some step we can take before, if we're not meeting a legal,
That's the thing. It's like,
is there something
unfortunately,
else that can be done legally?
unfortunately, I would say this, maybe the Department of Health with the city of New York can, maybe that way, if it's reported to the Department of Health, they can look into this individual and maybe they can do something. But legally, with his mental state of mind, there's nothing the NYPD or even the district attorney's office can do.
Jamila?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, can you go ahead?
Okay. My name is Jamila. I'm from Councilmember Carmen de la Rosa's office. I'm her Director of Community Affairs. Many people have been emailing our office and also sending videos via Instagram. We have been in communication with the 34th and the 33rd and the DA's office, Will Johnson, who's there with you guys in the room to discuss what's going on. We're waiting for more information. We're going to make more phone calls tomorrow because we want to see what's going on and how can we share information with our community of what to do when they see him or when they're in a similar situation. So I'm glad that I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. The representative of the 34 is explaining the process because someone who doesn't understand it from the inside thinks just calling 911 is the one thing to do. And then we got frustrated because, like you guys all said, they don't come and on time, or a police report is not done, or you can't press any charges. And there's a lot of moving parts that a lot of people don't understand. So we're working on that. We just want to make sure that I'm obviously here. I'm taking down notes and everything that was shared. And I want to say thank you to Nadia because she was able to email me a document that's been very helpful. I just went through it. And I'm going to put my email in the chat to make sure that you guys have my contact information. But the only question I have for the community residents is, outside of 911, has anybody made a 311 phone call? Because that's when we can bring adult protective services in to do like wellness checks and stuff like that. Because from my understanding is that he lives somewhere, so meaning he has a home. Who does he live with within that home? Is he by himself? Does he have family? Is there mental health services that this person is not receiving? And how can we bring the right agencies in to handle that situation so that this doesn't continue moving forward in the way that it is?
I think she asked if any of you have made any 311 calls.
They told me to call 911.
All right, so she called 311 and they was actually called 911. So that's the answer. Barbara.
Thank you. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said, go ahead.
Okay, fine. Okay. A couple questions. Number one, I did read on Facebook the long, like sort of log of the different incidents that have occurred. And it would appear to me that the 34th needs to connect with, I know Mayor Adams had said that we had sort of lower criteria for temporary psychiatric evaluation. And we do have that unit at the Allen Pavilion. I think we saved those beds, didn't we? Where we primarily it's men who have pretty severe mental illness, and the nurses that are there, they know their guys and they know who they are. And while this guy seems to be pretty skilled at staying below the felony radar, which is a great frustration for the 34th, and which I think that Inspector Castillo is trying to convey, if you haven't bloodied someone's nose or, hit their head against the sidewalk, it's very hard to, arrest someone for a felony. So at best you kind of have menacing or, what do you call it, where you are bothering somebody. And many, many incidents of that. He seems skilled at that, threatening. So
it would seem to me that possibly getting him put in the Allen Pavilion for observation, that because things like putting a cigarette in a toddler's mouth, groping women, slapping a woman in the face, things like that are all things which build toward a psychiatric evaluation. It's not normal to put a cigarette in someone's mouth, and he's done that on Cabrini Boulevard. He's done that there's at least 3 or 4 incidents of him putting cigarettes in people's faces. So, and along with the other lewd behavior. So why don't we go for that psychiatric evaluation? Is that possible, Inspector Castillo?
If we receive a phone call of somebody acting radical at the time and we get there and we see them, normally what we could do if the person is acting that way, we could have the ambulance remove them to the hospital and definitely get medically and psychiatrically evaluated. What happens from the moment he goes into the hospital from there on, that is definitely in the hands of the doctors. But it's definitely something that could definitely be done if the person is acting radical.
Yeah, I think that if you, though, go into the hospital with the printout of everything that's been on Facebook, this is the pattern. You know, this is the pattern. This is the 20th incident. Because otherwise, if he says, no, I'm okay. I just stumbled in the person. I don't know why they're doing this to me. I'm okay. I'm okay. You know, he would just be released. But if you really present, if the officer, again, which you really need a point person in the 34th, if you present, this is the pattern that's going on in the neighborhood and it's escalating, I think then you would at least get a 3 or 4 day observation committal. What do you think?
I honestly, there is a limited stuff that we could share with outside agencies because of obviously privacy issues. Again, the information that we get when we get the 911 calls is basically the same information the ambulance operators get when they get requested to respond. Based on that information, they I guess go in from there and they enter into their system, and that information gets passed on to the doctors over at the hospital. I can't speak to what they do once the person is in the hospital, and the things that they could actually go with from there, or how long can they keep them. But there's just the limited amount of information that we can actually share because of, like I said, privacy issues.
Facebook isn't private. Facebook isn't private. That's public. And that has been posted by third parties. In other words, women and other people have posted public information. That's no more private than a flyer put up on a telephone pole. So that certainly can be shared.
Yeah. 1 second, Barbara.
So this is my final, and this is something, first of all, I want to get this off my chest before we come to another meeting tomorrow night, where I'm sure that we are going to be rehashing a lot of this at the 3-4, which is not something I'm assuming that anybody on our screens here or in this room is looking forward to. So with that said, we've gotten a lot of non-answers here tonight. I think many of us feel. My question is, obviously, in the hypothetical situation in which there is a hypothetical group of people who hypothetically decide to take matters into their own hypothetical hands and create a hypothetical task force, civilian-based, to take care of said hypothetical individual and hypothetical threat. What is the likelihood the district attorney's office would prosecute those people for their hypothetical violent actions against a known threat?
I have no answer. I have no answer for you because what you're hypothetically saying is that a hypothetical group of people are going to hypothetically create a lynch mob and hurt this person who is allegedly hurting other people, is what you're saying. And would we prosecute this group of people? I'm
saying that's a situation that would hypothetically exist based on the lack of response from our local precincts. Again, not a situation the individuals on the ground would be creating, a situation that would have been created for them by the precincts themselves.
I understand what you're saying. You are very clear. What I'm saying is I'm not in a position to answer you whether or not the DA's office would prosecute a group of people you know, hypothetical people hypothetically harming an alleged individual.
Yeah, I mean.
Right. I'm looking for a response from the NYPD and the DA's office to prevent this from happening, because nobody on the ground here wants to hurt anybody, but nobody wants to get hurt.
Absolutely not, and I agree. And we're ready to prosecute anyone who's arrested for everything that's happening here right now. Nobody's saying this person won't be prosecuted, and I don't think the police are saying he's not gonna be arrested. I think the question is when, right, or how this is gonna happen. So, you know,
I
no one
heard
is
they
saying.
need they need eyewitnesses to things that were.
Well, there's an open report, because you made a report, right, sir, or your spouse made a report?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's been multiple police reports. I think
You have
the
reported,
frustration is we're being told that police.
Follow, we've also filed a report, so they're saying there's only 3, I don't know how that's possible.
Well, I think the Captain Castro was referring to the 3-3, and you may be referring to the 3-4, so it's, I don't know how many.
We're saying we need a point person and we need some sort of coordination between all of these events, these instances, to put them together so that we're not doing it on Facebook. We really want somebody.
Is the DA,
Position of,
out of ignorance, is the DA's office the point person between the two persons who have different people complaining about the same issues, and yet none of them can seem to do anything about it or to file some charge?
I
The
don't
charges are
think they're
filed.
saying that
I'm
nothing
asking.
can be done about it.
No, as far as the police.
And, you know, it doesn't matter where this person is, whether they're in the 3-3 or the 3-4, it's gonna be one arrest for probably, right, multiple crimes if it's the same person, although yours is not, I understand. So it's one prosecution with where there's gonna be many victims. So it doesn't matter what precinct it occurs in. We're not gonna be the point person to bridge the 3-3 and the 3-4 together. We're gonna prosecute whatever the case they bring before us, whether it happened in the 3-3, the 3-4, the 2-0, it doesn't matter where in Manhattan it happens. It's gonna be one prosecution or maybe multiple prosecutions, because it sounds like there might be more than one person out there that's committing the same thing.
So
So,
the person has to be arrested before it comes to your office? Is that
yes.
how it works? Okay.
Yes, that notwithstanding, we are, so I did contact the chief of our trial division to alert them about this. I just started hearing about this afternoon, as Jamila did, and many people, and I'm happy to give my cards to anyone who's here that wants to call me directly or send me an email or anything like that. I'm happy to take all of that and refer it to the correct people. And I'm very, I really want your information and anyone else who made the police report, because once they're arrested, we're gonna need to speak to you, and we wanna be able to speak to you directly right away, and not have to figure out where you are. But yeah, it's gonna be one prosecution or multiple prosecutions, but all of you are gonna be very critical and important in us being able to move forward with this case, you know, once it does come to us. So, you know, we're not the go-between between both precincts. We work with all precincts here in Manhattan. And, you know, it's going to be one or multiple prosecutions based on how many people are gonna be arrested for what's going on.
Can I vote on something? So hi, my name is Juan C. Vargas.
Wait, can you, no, I have to give you the right to speak. One,
I'm sorry.
raise your hand. Now, go ahead, one.
Sorry. Sorry about that, everyone. So I'm understanding.
Order, right?
Yeah, I'm understanding 2 points. One is that us, the community, have to actually follow through when we do call 911 and do the prosecutions. And then the second is honestly for the DA team that's there, it's really sad to me that you're just hearing about this today, where our community has been dealing with this for a couple of times and called 911 and been able to report it. So I feel there's a gap, and then that's what we're here for today, that we need to close in. Everybody here made the complaints, and we need to follow through. We need to follow through and actually show up and press the charges that need to be pressed and take time, because these persons are actually abating and they're messing up our community. So we need to take the time to actually report them and do whatever it takes in our side to be able to report them and do the due diligence. But then everybody else in the police departments and 33rd and 34th and the DA office need to make sure that once we report this, you guys take initiative and actually handle this, because I feel that there's a gap, right?
Indiana?
So can I
Okay.
just respond
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
him? Because,
Go
you know,
I'm sorry.
I'm one person amongst 1,300 staff people that work in the DA's office. So when I say this is the first time I hear about it today and yesterday that Nadia emailed me. It doesn't mean that someone else in my office didn't hear about it. You heard the lieutenant say he did confer with someone in my office regarding the stalking charge. That's number one. There is no physical way that I can keep ahead of every 911 call that goes into the precinct. I think it would be unreasonable for anyone to expect me to know every time somebody reports to 911 when there's a crime. And, you know, this is something that's been going on. I think it started in January, maybe. Can we say that or right before?
No, there was.
From December, right. So it's
There was a violent assault on a woman in Fort Tryon Park last summer. That's the first time I heard about it, and police report was filed on that.
okay. So, but what I'm saying is not, so that was in the summer, but recently it's been an uptick, it sounds like, on the activity, right? So it's not surprising, but there's no way I can keep track of every 911 call, which is why I said maybe a lot of you didn't know that we were here, that we had an office. You're walking away now with my information, and I'm happy to take all these complaints and make sure that one, the DA knows about it, which it sounds that Lieutenant Cabrera did speak with someone in my office, but make sure that I'm aware of it so that I can also make sure that people in my office know about it, because usually we come into play after an arrest. There's an arrest and then we are the prosecution part of it. If we can be involved earlier, even before an arrest, of course we would want to. So that's my response to Mr. Vargas.
Indiana, nice to see you.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be back.
We
So
miss you here. We miss you.
I miss you guys too. But I'm joining today and I just wanted to make sure that I understood clearly kind of what was mentioned earlier. If let's say that the goal is to get this person and get enough record and enough reports of this person stalking, it's okay if it's not the same person, or does it need to be 3 or so reports of the same person being stalked by this individual? Right? Like, could it be one family today and another family reports it tomorrow and the next day it's a third family, or does it need to be the same person that is being stalked 3 times that they report 3 times?
It has to, Lieutenant Caprano from the 3-3, it has to be the same person 3 times. It can't be 3 separate persons or 3 separate families. It has to be the same person 3 occasions.
Is there any other, I mean, I don't know, I'm an attorney, right? But this is criminal law. I don't, practice in this, but there's no other crime. I mean, if you are sexually assaulting people, right? Like, it's not usually the same person every time. And they build cases based on reports from different people. How is that not possible for a case like this?
We're not talking about sexual assault. You don't need 3 reports for sexual assault from one person. I think the stalking charge, Indiana, is what they were saying, that you couldn't charge stalking for 3 different people from one individual. That can't be the charge.
But like menacing a child, like trying to
Right,
secret,
there
that
could
would
be other
a-
charges, yeah, but
that-
stalking, I think, the lieutenant was referring specifically to stalking.
Okay, but something like menacing, then it doesn't need to be the same person multiple times. Okay.
You said menacing, that's
Okay, thank you.
to change the term.
So coming back to your point of, and I've learned as we go along, I've seen comments on the Q&A and the chat, people mentioning that they've had run-ins with them or them since the summer 2023. So I guess it's not like an isolated incident anymore. It's just like, so something a little bit that would require more of a police presence than what we can possibly do.
So, in terms of that, if the person, again, committed a crime in 2023, I'm not sure if the person was arrested or not. If the person was arrested in 2023, again, it all depends on the severity of the case. Obviously, if the case went through trial, and if the person was convicted, it's a lot. It's a lot of moving parts in the whole criminal justice system. that it doesn't end when we make an arrest. It only starts with the complaint, and then once we make the arrest, we present whatever evidence we have to the district attorney's office, right? And then they make a determination whether or not they're going to proceed and present the case in front of a court, and so on and so forth. And again, because we make an arrest doesn't mean like the person is going to be remanded for an extended period of time. We can make an arrest today, right? The DA's office presents the case, and if the judge or whoever deems that the person could actually be released, they can be released. And we're back to, guess what? Square one again, where this person is back out there doing the thing again and again and again and again and again. It's just frustrating for everybody. Trust me when I tell you, it's very frustrating. We get it, but that's just the way the system works. Again,
it doesn't work.
It's just, look, in terms of their mental status, maybe there's a way to get this to, like I said earlier, the mental hygiene people. Hopefully they can some way, somehow get this person force this person to get into a mental institution. Maybe that's the way to go, but that's not us. That has to go through some other community outreach program or whatnot. It is not the NYPD.
So our 84 remote participants and the group of us that are here would like to walk away with some sort of something and not feel like we came in and give a double force again. This is your meeting.
A remedial question.
Your meeting.
Could you clarify the Clary crime alert, which is out for this guy versus a warrant?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Yeah, it's not. I guess that's part of the frustration. There's a Clary crime alert from Columbia and the public safety office about this man. What's the difference between that and a warrant?
That is Columbia University's way of letting you guys know that there is potential crime being committed by this individual that has no legal bearing on anything. That's just them letting you know, look, this is what's going on around the area. If there is a crime committed and a judge agrees that there is enough evidence saying, okay, this person definitely committed the crime, then they will issue an arrest warrant for this individual. Once that arrest warrant has been issued, if the person is seen on the street or, if we run into them and we can determine positively this is the person that this warrant was issued for, that person gets arrested and they are brought down in front of that judge to face that warrant. What happens from there on, again, that's beyond the NYPD. Most likely the warrant situation would be when we make contact with the person and we take that person into custody and bring him down to face the judge. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Look, I'll say this.
I think you raise your hand, someone there. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of like read out loud what you are. I'm not sure that you guys are seeing it from people that are remote. So I'm just gonna ask, just kind of like read it out loud. It says, once you have the questions that have already been answered or addressed, once you have the legally binding ID of the person of interest, how will you proceed?
Well, once that identification has been made, we will, the detective bureau will issue what we call an I-card, which is kind of a warrant, but it's not. It's just to let the rest of the department know, look, if you come into contact with this person is wanted for X, Y, and Z. Please take him into custody and let us know, and we'll go proceed and arrest them and present the charges to the district attorney's office.
Next question. Can you place the images of the people publicly? In other words, can you promote them and create flyers and put them all over the neighborhood? Is that legitimate or legal?
Once we've determined that this is in fact the person, and legally have determined that yes, this is the person we want for this crime, we could definitely do that.
Nadia, you said you have a document where you have summarized all of the reports across other Facebook groups. Who at the 34th and the 33rd precinct can I send this to? You guys wanna-
Here, I'll type my,
Nadia, you can take it from there. Is that okay? I don't know if you
Yeah.
have a way. to
Yes,
speak
I'll
in-
take it from there. And can I ask a follow-up question about the harassment?
Of course,
and
of course.
stalking?
Of course you can.
So I'm just gonna speak on, I've been talking to some of the women who live in the building where this man lives, and they report that he hangs out of his window and he harasses them. Like for the past year, he's been harassing them in this building. Sometimes he gets down and he follows them around. They feel very threatened. Is that, if they go and file a report, because that's definitely more than 3 instances, I think for more than one person, does that qualify as stalking? And is that enough then to go forward with the charge?
who are we talking about? Do we know? Is it in the 3-3? Is it in the 3-4? Because I don't want to answer for the 3-3. I'm
He's at 200 A Haven, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's the 3-3. So
I'm sorry, what is your question?
My question is, there are people who live in this person's building,
Mm-hmm.
and they report that he harasses them on a routine basis more than 3 times.
Okay.
Hangs out his window, watches where they go, and there's
Okay,
other
so-
people who yeah. So I want to know if those women go and report, make a formal report. Is that enough to move forward with the stalking charge?
When whatever it is that they're doing, we need to know specifically from that person. If they could come into the precinct, if they could call 911, we'll investigate and see if it goes up to the level of misdemeanor. I mean, it could be a harassment, but we will have to speak to that person. What we're gonna do is, we know he lives, at 200 Haven. We are gonna have our officers deployed over there because obviously, like you said, if he sees officers there, he's not gonna do it. But again, we're trying to apprehend him with the actual evidence as soon as possible, but clearly we have to do something in the meantime, right? So the most important thing is, again, have our officers drive around with the lights on when they're not on a 911 call. If they get a priority call, if they have to get rerouted, then they have to get rerouted, but at least have some type of presence in the area until we apprehend him.
Thank you.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I guess the one question that I've seen popping up in just about every comment is how will a person like this of interest, how could it be addressed? And I think you guys have already sort of like explained exactly how to go about the process and what the law says and how much you can do. So this is the description of this individual called Antonio 57 Butcherbeard. Okay. Will you only respond to groping? What about harassment, stalking? What is the threshold for response?
We'll respond to every 911 call. Every 911 call. So you feel alarmed, you call. You get groped, you call. It's every 911 call, and we will investigate it accordingly.
Okay, so we went over these two threshold to assign. What is the threshold to assign a case to a detective?
it has to be at least a misdemeanor.
At least a what?
Misdemeanor.
At what point we at? Okay, I think we've addressed that. What else? Pepper spray comes again.
Could we have a date to follow up on this to know?
Say that out loud, a little louder.
Oh, sorry.
You guys can speak while I browse through all this notes.
Date, like for accountability to follow up on all of this. I would like to leave my house kind of having a better idea that people are on it. It's just very frustrating.
And frightening.
You guys, a date from both reasons we'd like to hear. There's a date.
Where does she live?
34th precinct.
3-4.
Okay, you don't have to give me your specific address, but just the street, so I could, because again, I'm trying to have our officers patrol the area, but I need specifics. I'm sorry?
He wants to know, he's asking what street?
Cross streets
Oh,
nearby
uh,
Haven.
Bennett and 181st.
How can, Katie Carey asked, how can we find out which crimes are bail eligible?
You go online.
Google it.
It's a Google search. Very simple Google search. Katie, sorry to say it that way.
Ask,
But
as they say in the lingo, is ask chat.
ask chat. Oh, that too.
That's true.
Not DeepSeek. Not DeepSeek. Don't trust it yet. Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions? I would love to continue to get your comments.
I think we basically,
Can complaints be done at the site of the crime, or do they have to come to the 33rd or the 34th?
If the person call 911, we'll respond and we could take the report from right there. If they're still present in the scene, if they have to go for whatever reason, they could walk into any precinct within the NYPD and file the report.
Okay. In the meanwhile, Barbara and then Indiana, and then I think we have a final sort of like resolution or take home or something. I don't want to leave here empty-handed.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, isn't 200 Haven Avenue a Columbia University building or New York Presbyterian building?
Is it 220?
200 Haven Avenue, isn't that a Columbia University or New York Presbyterian building?
It's next to one, but it's not one.
no was the answer.
Does anyone know?
They're saying it's next to a Columbia building, but it is not a Columbia building. That's what the people in the back row
Well,
are saying.
I would suggest that the people in the building contact the landlord.
They
And the
have
land,
evicted, but because he's paying his rent, the management is not taking it seriously, but he goes around trying to enter everyone's apartment, seeing if there's a door unlocked. He's tried to convince people in the building against their will. He's threatened to blow up the entire building.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but in terms of housing laws, the landlord cannot kick out a tenant without probable cause, obviously reports. Unless they are not paying rent, like you guys just mentioned, unless they are physically doing something wrong to the apartment, the landlord would have to go through the housing court process, which takes its time and with credible information.
I know that, but the point is that when a tenant receives a stern letter from management, it's come to our attention that you have to cut it out. In the same way with, for example, noise complaints. And to be told that to bother tenants is a violation of your lease and could result in legal action, that often starts to stop the tenant. Like that, just that you play your stereo loud at 1 o'clock in the morning could result in legal action. It often works to curb the behavior. And so I would suggest that they lean on management to issue very stern letters to this guy and see if that starts to either curb or get response on the behavior.
Okay.
And
so,
if not, starts sending letters to the landlord that he's not doing his job.
Then we're gonna move on. So Indiana, you're gonna be the last question, and then we're gonna have both prisons do closing arguments, like if this is a trial. And then I guess if you're willing to, if not, then we'll have nothing else to add. Indiana, you'll go first, and then I wanna hear from the 3-3 and the 3-4, so you guys can leave in some way of.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to ask if there's anything else that would be helpful. I know that, you're trying to build a case, but specifically for the DA's office, I mean, would it be helpful to start saving the Ring camera videos if people have it? Trying to talk to neighbors or small businesses to see if they've got any kind of security footage so that if and when this person is arrested, is that helpful to you to try and build a case? Or does the evidence need to come specifically from the people that you know, whose complaint you're relying on to build the case? Does it need to be limited to their evidence, or can it be community evidence that's been put together?
So, I mean, we're happy to take videos. You know, it doesn't have to be from the actual victim, if it's from the actual crime. But the person who recorded was not the victim, we're happy to take videos.
Okay, because I feel like bodegas and, you know, that may help build a case.
Right, if the crime is depicted on a video from wherever it comes from, it would be helpful, yeah.
So from
Thank
the 3-3 and the 3-4, when can the community members expect to have some patrolling? I know that you're not gonna do it every single day, but in some sort of ways to kind of like, so they feel like this is not gonna, that this is a deterrent at least.
Well, look, I'm Captain Prato. I'm sorry.
Brian Holster, he's the community officer that, he's been very helpful to us because we had some difficulties in the past with strange people a few years ago. Is he still around, Brian Holster, like community?
He
people?
is. Yes, he is. Yes.
Okay. I left him a message. I didn't hear anything, but I would appreciate at least to have like the communication ongoing.
All right, so Captain and ED from 3-3.
So I am going to definitely have our units pay attention to the locations mentioned. They will be patrolling the area more often. Again, just please keep in mind that this is all bearing on the amount of phone calls, the 911s that we get, and so on and so forth. But we will you will see an increase in police presence around the areas, starting tonight.
And you have his picture?
More than enough.
We have plenty. The thing is, again, even if we see him, right? So just please understand this. Like, I'm really trying to help because I know it's I have young kids. I know how it is. I know how everybody feels when this individual, just gets close to any of you guys. Please, all I'm asking for is if you call 911 and you have to leave, please follow up with us. File that report. Because you call 911, we show up, you're not there. Guess what happens? We go and nothing happens because you're not there. We don't have a complainant. So please, if you have to leave, if you're in a rush or whatnot, please come into the precinct or any precinct and file the complaint. Let's start with that. And then we'll do our best to follow through. And if a crime is committed, we'll do our best to get this individual off the streets.
Right. Thank you. So that's closing statement from the police department. I'm gonna, Tanisha, because I haven't heard you, so I want you to give closing comments so that we can call it a day.
Well, thank you, Chair. Tanisha Grant, second vice chair of the community board. I haven't said anything because I have been listening intentionally. And I'm so sorry that all of you are going through this. It makes no sense, but I want to lift up another point. I want to ask the 33rd and 34th. I know that there's something supposed, because this man sounds mentally, has mental problems. This sounds like a mental problem issue, a mentally unwell man. And, the answer is not going to be to criminalize him. So where is what's supposed to be in place, like the Be Heard? I know that you are supposed to have people that are supposed to be trained to deal with mentally unwell people in the 33rd and the 34th. And I've been sitting here listening intentionally because I haven't heard anyone mention any of that. Hearing what these people are saying, this man is not moving like he is saying. So we know that there are a lot of unwell, mentally ill people walking around our neighborhoods. So where's the mental health aspect in the 33rd and the 34th? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Tanisha, I was the one who actually brought up trying to get him into a psychiatric unit at the Allen Pavilion. So, and that was absolutely the focus, and that was a major discussion to really get him in for psychiatric evaluation.
I appreciate that, but that's not what
Okay.
I heard on this call. So
I did. That was a
Well, I
major
wasn't here
discussion.
for that, Barbara. So
Okay.
So I said that I've been listening and I haven't heard, because if I heard you say that, then I wouldn't have said what I have said, right?
Okay.
Okay. So I've been on this call for a moment, and since I've been on this call, all I've heard is, if we catch him, we can arrest him and we can do all of those criminalization things, but I haven't heard that in a while. So I think that, and again, I said that they're supposed to be India.
Notice that it's very interesting and.
You're not on mute, India.
Oh, sorry. So sorry about that.
No problem.
The two most technical committees in terms of complications.
Sorry.
So
There you go.
That still doesn't answer my question of the people that are supposed to be in place
I think
when things like this happen.
Yeah, to kind of like leave the meeting on a good note, I think that we all have the best of intentions to try and resolve these issues that of the people that are here. Even we had a person who was actually punched in the face by one of these individuals. So yes, mental health is an issue. We also have to think about the victims and how do we resolve the situations that affect them directly. Unfortunately, we have to take a hard look at the way that the laws are and the implementation of the existing laws, and give responsibility and hold accountable the people that make these laws instead of the enforcement part of the laws. That's what we should take a look at that as well, and not continue to bark at the wrong tree. Otherwise, we're never gonna come into a final resolution, and then we're gonna create unfortunate situations amongst ourselves who do not have the ability or the power to make those decisions. So yes, Tanisha, I always love your comments. So I'm gonna call this meeting to order.
Is the 34th still here?
That's order to end.
No. Is the 34th still here, Elliot? Eliezer?
The captain.
Yeah, because I have an important issue to raise. I texted you to have it on the agenda. Can I please bring it up?
I think we talked about it.
No, we didn't. No, I don't think we did.
So the menacing person in Fort Tryon and 207.
And missing person, and missing person.
Okay, what is the protocol to report a missing person?
Right. Let me report on that. Okay. Let me discuss this. Okay. I live in 99 Hillside. You're probably aware of the situation that was going on there in an apartment, and that a person had been squatting there. Now, the person who had been the owner of the apartment essentially disappeared. Okay. And his neighbor came twice to the 34th precinct and tried to report him as a missing person, and felt that possibly the person that had squatted in the apartment had done violence to him. The 34th, the officers that he met with at the 34th refused to take a missing persons report, saying that you're not a relative. You have to be a relative to accept a missing persons report. Well, this person has no relatives. So I really want that clarified, and I want a missing persons report filled out on this person who is missing, and I want him located and to be assured that he actually still exists. Because I won't go into all the details, but there are suspicious issues about his non-existence.
So let the captain say what the protocol is, and then if you have any further discussions about this particular issue that is so close to your heart, then you should kind of like do that offline.
I agree, but I do say, what are the protocols for a missing person?
So, there's obviously no time frame, right? We don't have to wait any 24 hours. I'll just say that right now, because some people, I guess, either were misinformed or for whatever reason, again, we do not have to wait 24 hours. Once you find out that there is a relative of yours or somebody that you live with that has been missing, then you could go ahead and you file the police report, right? as a neighbor of someone that you could clearly attest that if you guys live next to each other, like the apartment right next to him or
For
her
30 years. This person lived next to him for 30 years.
for 30 years.
Yeah.
And for that person stop answering the phone or they're not answering the door,
Mhm.
have you do you know if that person called 911 saying my neighbor, I want to do a wellness check on my neighbor, he's not answering the door? Do you know
The
if
person
that has
came,
been done?
the neighbor came twice in person to the 34th precinct and was refused, and his attempt to file a missing persons report was refused.
Correct. Look, unfortunately, there are certain protocols that we have to follow in order when it comes to filing a missing persons report, right? But what I will tell you, suggest to you, to that person is from their house, call 911 and say, I want to have a wellness check conducted on my neighbor who lives next door to me.
Okay,
Because
that won't work now because the apartment has been evicted and turned back to management.
okay. So now, the other thing that could have happened, unfortunately, is this person could have passed away somewhere outside of the apartment. If he has no family members, then unfortunately, no one is gonna know that he passed away, right? The best I could suggest is if your neighbor has that person's information, name, date of birth, they could actually go, just have him come to the 3-4 precinct and ask for Captain Peralta. I'll do my best to help him out and give him whatever information. If I could find any information, I will give him whatever information we have. If we could find anything in terms of that person, whether they passed or not. How's that?
Well, that's okay, but I want a missing persons report because there's a lot of information. You actually have on the person that's squatted in the apartment, you actually have a warrant out for that person's arrest because he assaulted another person that he brought into the apartment.
Well, I honestly think.
So
you
it
guys-
gets complicated.
But Barbara, this is a public meeting. We are social media on YouTube. and
I
don't
know,
think-
I know.
So then
I'm
I
just
think-
saying, there's a lot of reason to pursue
I
a missing
understand,
persons
but-
report.
Yeah, I don't think this is the platform to
Barbara,
discuss this kind of
if
issues.
you can, just come to the 3-4 precinct, ask for me, and I'll be more than glad to help.
Happy to help.
Okay,
Yes.
that sounds great. Okay, sounds good.
It's Captain Peralta, okay?
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Noemi, I think you have your hand raised. I guess
Hello,
not.
so sorry about that.
Yes.
I had a question. I had put it in the chat previously. First and foremost, just want to say happy Black History Month to everybody, even though it is American history, just shouting out a fact. And I had a question in regards of scheduling a trip for students within the George Washington campus. One of the issues that have been voiced and it's a concern among our students is that a lot of our students attendance has been low for the last week or so. And then another thing is they just don't feel secure outside of the building. We know that the protocol for the whole migrant situation, our students are secure within the building, but once they're outside of the building, things change. So I posed that question to the community. How are we going to ensure that our students are going to be feeling safe as they step outside of the school for school trips between the hours of school trips? So if somebody can help out with that.
Well, what's your
Okay.
name? Because I know you're using Noemi's. Is that your name?
Yeah, that's me. I'm Noemi.
Oh,
Hold
okay.
on,
Because
let me get off of the
there's
screen.
no, because there's that Noemi that
I'm
works
sorry.
here as well.
There's a different Noem.
Hi.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
I'm a different Noemi. I'm sorry. I was just having dinner.
Yeah, so all right, it's all right. Captain or someone from the 3 can also explain the sanctuary laws How do they apply in New York City?
Well, I would say this, the NYPD, we cannot interfere with anything that has to do with immigration enforcement. Let's just say if ICE or whoever comes in tries to apprehend an individual, we cannot interfere to stop them from doing it. The other thing we cannot do is help them do it. That is not the prerogative of the NYPD. We have nothing to do with that. Unfortunately, we cannot provide protection from them going and enforcing immigration law.
According to the city charter.
Correct.
So basically, we just can't ensure them being protected when they're outside of the school during school hours with school staff. Is that what I'm hearing?
The NYPD ourselves, we cannot provide security or we cannot stop the federal government from enforcing the federal laws. Unfortunately, I feel the pain of the whole situation, but that is just the law, and we have to follow it.
Okay, thank you guys.
I think there's, just to say one thing and then we can wrap up.
Yeah.
But I think, all of this tonight there's a lot of questions about how can we ensure the community feels safe when the community doesn't feel safe, but it hasn't reached the level of, a crime that would literally warrant the NYPD to arrest someone. And I think there's several things we're seeing where there's kind of gaps between steps, that we're just in this really kind of uncomfortable middle area until something changes one way or the other. Excuse me. I don't have the answer to that, and I don't think we're going to answer that question tonight, but I think that's a really good thing for us to all ponder is, how can we just improve the feeling of safety in the community?
How do we bridge all those gaps in the process of feeling safe, of calling, having to be there, going to the precinct, filing the report, going to the DAs, and then the DA prosecutes, and if they're lucky enough, or if we get lucky enough, the person is not out on the following day. So those are the 100 steps to, whatever, try and solve the situation. I'm going to wrap up with Indiana.
Thank you. In my personal capacity, I just wanted to note something about the sanctuary city laws. There is right now a policy. We passed a law, and there's also a DOE policy, right? Even if ICE wants to conduct enforcement at a school, there is a process. They can't just walk in without announcing themselves. They've got to present themselves to the security guard who, admits people into the building. And then that person needs to take whatever documents ICE brings to them to the principal. It can't be a teacher. It can't be a custodian. It has to be the principal. The principal then has to take that information and run it up the chain to a central office. And they cannot let the police or the ICE officer in until they get clearance from that central office. And it needs to be a judicial warrant. So there are a lot of steps that need to be completed before DOE, a principal will let somebody into campus for enforcement. It's not a full protection, right? If they're outside of school, if they're targeting parents outside of the school, there's nothing that we can do. But there are steps that really restrict who can enter the school for enforcement purposes. And you can find that if you Google DOE non-local law enforcement, that policy is publicly available online.
Thank you. See, it's always nice to have a lawyer as your colleague in the community board, right? Right, Tanisha? She like the smile. It's always good. So, having said extremely productive meeting, Captain, you did take a lot of questions that were helpful. I know you're trying your best from the 3-3 as well. So I'm gonna call this meeting to end.
Adjourn the meeting.
So adjourn the meeting. I forgot.
At 8:30 p.m.
8:30
Bye.
p.m.
Good to see you guys.
Noemi, I won't confuse you anymore.
Bye, everybody.
Now I know who
Bye.
you are. Thank you, Barbara. Bye-bye.